Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters temporary studio. Welcome to the show. So we've gotten quite a few strange things in this set during spoiler season, but my goodness, a blue birthing pod was something I definitely did not expect to see. Here we go. Synthesis pod, an artifact for 3 and a Phyrexian blue. Let's see if this is good as birthing pod. Here we go. 1 in a Phyrexian blue. Tap. Well, that sounds very familiar. Exile a spell you control. Okay, that's weird. Target opponent reveals cards to the top of their library until you reveal a card with mana value equal to 1 plus the exiled spell's mana value. Exile that card, then that player shuffles. You may cast that exile card without paying its mana cost. So, birthing pod, this is not. This is, well, a very interesting card, one that I think would go really well in my rarity deck if it is budget friendly, and it very well might, because this card is just, well, kind of strange. The original birthing pod, of course, was pretty straightforward on what broken and crazy things you can do with it, and this one's more so like, yeah, no, this is exactly like this, in the format of it. Essentially, again, exact same mana cost. Except in blue, essentially, Phyrexian blue, that is. The exact same cost to activate that ability, except again with Phyrexian blue, replacing the Phyrexian green. Also, giving up something to get something else, but this one is just a bit, well, not a bit, it is very random. It is like, hey, you know what? You've got to get rid of a spell you control, which is a good cost. I mean, and the other one, right, you could get rid of, a creature, essentially, right? And we'll talk about that here in a bit. This one's like, no. Cast a spell, then decide to get rid of that spell. You exile it, you get rid of it forever. And then, let's just have an opponent reveal cards until they hit something that's equal to that spell's mana value +1. Which, you know what? There is a percentage chance that you actually completely whiff with this. I mean, you literally could. If an opponent has no, CMC4 spells in their deck for whatever reason, and you, exile a spell that costs 3, you're out of luck. You just, lost, basically an opportunity to gain some value. Now, that being said, you got to see that, player's entire deck, and it is pretty unlikely, that you wouldn't hit something that costs, say, 4. Now, obviously, maybe if you're going on the higher end with a big spell, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, something splashy, I'll do, a 6, and maybe I'll hit something that costs 7 that an opponent has. If they don't have any giant spells, you're likely to miss with that. So, yeah, be careful on who you pick. Obviously, this can be better depending on, if you've played against, your friends' decks before and you know their decks inside and out, you're like, okay, for this scenario that I'm in, I really need, like a Wrath of God, and that player probably has one, or I know that player has one because I've played against that deck before, and so, okay, I'll get rid of my 3. Hopefully I hit, something, that is like Wrath of God or Wrath of God itself. So, yeah, it's an interesting card. There is some opportunity for it. It's just not as inherently good as Birthing Pod, which is probably a good thing, because Birthing Pod destroys formats, apparently. But yeah, this one is not nearly as straightforward, though there are some exciting things that you could do with that, and we're going to talk about those things. But first, let's, again, I already referenced it a couple of times, and for those of you that haven't seen Birthing Pod, let's talk about it really quick. 3 in a Phyrexian green, it's the exact same thing, except you have Phyrexian blue for a new one. 1 in Phyrexian green, so exact same thing again. Tap, sacrifice a creature, search your life for a creature card, converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate only anytime you cast a sorcery. So, again, very similar. You're giving up something to get something slightly more costed. Higher costed, whatever you want to say. And yeah, with this though, it is much more straightforward, since obviously you're going to go get one of your own things. You're going to get one of your own creatures. You know what creatures are in your deck, and you're like, okay, all right, for this situation that I'm in, I'm gonna sacrifice this creature, go get, this exact creature. And you can pod chain up, as they say. You pod chain. You go get a different creature to another creature to another creature. And yeah, there are definitely some combo worthy things that you can do with this. And again, this can be a format breaking type card, whereas this new one, again, is much more random because you have no control over what you're hitting, or I should say very little control. Maybe there's a way, to put a card on top of an opponent's library, and then you would know. Very specific situation though, but yeah, the vast majority of the time, it is going to be chaotic, it is going to be random, and you have no idea what kind of value you are going to be getting. When it comes to value, though, let's talk about some weird and off-the-wall cards that actually can really utilize a card like this, or I should say maybe more so, a card like this can utilize, like Eternal Scourge and Mist Hollow Griffin, which are very strange because they can each be cast from exile. So we've got a 3 mana card and a 4 mana card that you can essentially just cast from exile. Cool. All right, I'll pay my 1 in a Phyrexia in blue, so 4 mana in total for Eternal Scourge. I'll cast it. I'll exile it with my brand new Birthing Pod type card, Synthesis Pod, and then I will get a 4 mana card off the top of opponent's library. Hopefully it's something good. Misthal Griffin, again, exact same thing essentially, but for 4 mana, so you're paying an extra 1, maybe even 2, depending on if you don't lose that life or not. But yeah, getting something that costs 5 off the top of an opponent's library. And of course, you can hit some really big things. These are some very specific plays. And if you want to build an entire deck around Synthesis Pod, yeah, I could see it being a pretty fun thing. And yeah, there's plenty of ways to actually go get these cards, whether in your hand or directly into exile. And when you do that, yeah, you can definitely just keep doing this again and again and again for a bunch of random and fun value. And speaking of random fun value, well, Wandering Archaic is another card that came to my mind for one that could really take advantage of this brand new pod. It says whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell. Choose your targets for the copy. So 2 is a lot to pay. I mean, we know that obviously from, like Smothering Tithe. 2 is a ton to pay for a tax on top of something. If your opponents are doing that, you're getting a lot of additional value. And sometimes those spells that they're copying really might not be things that you really care all that much about. Maybe it's something that doesn't even help you in that situation that you're in. Like maybe it's a counter spell that gets copied and you're like, well, I don't really want to counter that. So yeah, I'll just actually, pay the 1. I will exile it and then I will, I will actually get some extra value out of that off the top of someone's library. So this can obviously give you a bunch of free spells. Again, keep in mind the way that Synthesis Pod is worded. It's going to exile a spell you control. It doesn't say exile a spell you cast that you control or anything like that. I don't know if anything actually is ever worded like that. But regardless, yeah, think of these kind of other ways where you're not just kind of, utilizing your own spells really, but either some repeatable ones, again, like our Eternal Scourge or Misthal Griffin, or again, a card like this, where it's like, you know what? No, you just get miscellaneous spells for free. So yeah, copy effects are definitely ones that you can consider. And of course, I mean, this kind of chaotic nature of this card definitely reminds me of other cards like, Chaos Wand and Wand of Wonder, and kind of fits in that same kind of deck and same kind of strategy potentially, and actually can really benefit from cards like these. I mean, Chaos Wand, pay 4, tap, target opponent exiles cards to the top of the library to the exile, an instant sorcery card. You can cast it without paying its mana cost, put the exile cards that weren't kept this way in the bottom of the library. Now, basically, hey, okay, what if you hit something that you really don't care for? Again, maybe you actually hit a Wrath of God and you're like, I don't really want to blow up the creatures, so you know what? Instead of utilizing Wrath of God to wrath the board, we're actually just going to utilize it with Synthesis Pod to actually go get something else off the top of an opponent's library. Wand of Wonder, somewhat similar. Pay 4, tap, roll a d20. Each opponent exiles cards to the top of their library till they exile an instant sorcery card, then shuffles the rest of their library and cast up to X instant sorcery spells from among the exiled cards this way without paying their mana cost. 1 through 9 is 1, 10 through 19 is 2, 20 is 3. So yeah, a lot of value can come out of this. Even more value than Chaos Wand. Sorry, Chaos Wand. I really do like you, though. But yeah, Wand of Wonder, slight upgrade. Regardless, again, can really play well with Synthesis Pod. And again, it's kind of that, chaotic random card that works in a chaos deck that players, just want just random things to happen. So yeah, I can see Synthesis Pod fitting in those kinds of decks. Now, when it comes to commanders that might want to consider this card, one of the first ones that came to my mind is actually Abaddon the Despoiler. Now, I'm not going to say for every single Abaddon deck. I mean, this commander can be built in a very powerful way, and if you're including Synthesis Pod, you might be taking away from that power just a little bit because, again, it is kind of chaotic and random. Regardless, during your turn, spells you cast from your hand with mana value X less have Cascade, where X the total amount of life your opponents have lost this turn. So you, again, are getting basically an extra spell for free when you're casting things out of your hand, when you are cascading with it. So you just cascade up the top of your deck. Again, kind of chaotic, kind of random. Hit something. Maybe it's not something you actually care about casting then and there. So you're like, you know what? I'm actually just going to use my new pod to exile this and get something off the top of an opponent's library for free. Kind of like, cascading from them. So yeah, you might be able to get even more value than you would have gotten out of your own. And again, definitely not for every single Abaddon the Despoiler deck. But again, if you're a more chaotic version of this deck, or again, a different commander that also utilizes Cascade in a more chaotic way, yeah, definitely something to consider. Finally, another kind of commander that might want to consider this as well, and again, not for the most powerful version of Anhelo, because my goodness, can this commander be gross. Extra turns. Extra turns. Anyways, yeah, the first instant sorcery spell you cast each turn has casualty 2, so yeah, you can sacrifice a creature that's got power 2 or greater and copy that instant sorcery. So yeah, it could be a very powerful commander, but also, yeah, again, just gives you extra spells that you can utilize with your Synthesis Pod if that's more the direction you want to go. Maybe more chaos, maybe more, interesting and off-the-wall things that you might hit off the top of your opponent's library. So again, being able to utilize copy commanders, ones that can just give you additional copies of spells that you can then utilize for other purposes, can be a direction to, consider this card as well. Yeah, though, at the end of the day, I definitely did not expect to see a brand new Birthing Pod type card. Again, the exact same format of this card, the exact same format of Birthing Pod, but, with the blue instead of the green. And yeah, I mean, it does follow kind of basically the exact same template. You're changing out one thing for something slightly bigger. But again, this one's much more chaotic. It is less controllable. You have no idea what you're going to hit versus with Birthing Pod, you know exactly what you want to go get. And yeah, that's what made it so, broken in many situations, essentially. This one's kind of more, again, chaotic, more kind of off the wall. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to hit. And yeah, but with this card being revealed, that also makes it seem like they might, over the years, complete a cycle of these cards potentially. I mean, yeah, we've seen a green one, now a blue one. Are we ever going to see, red, white, or black? Who knows? Yeah, we very well might. And I wonder what in the world those would do. So yeah, that's today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.